Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Pardon Our Picks, where perfection is a work in progress. I'm your host, Sam. Alongside me, once again, is the GM, Tarek. How are you this evening?
I'm good. Good to be back. Sorry I missed last week. Kids sports takes precedence over this sports, so had to take my daughter for basketball evals, but everything's
I
all good.
thought
We're
you,
here.
I thought you loved us.
I love my daughter more. Question
Okay,
mark?
fine. Of course, we have Football Jesus. How is His Highness this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. It was a very fun week of football last week. I was very impressed with some of the games that we actually were able to watch. No thanks to ESPN with the other Monday night game. But I'm interested to see how, after a very good week of football, we get into a not so good week of football.
Well, it has its ebbs and flows. Speaking of ebbs and flows, we have the QB coach, Jessica, sitting perched atop the standings right now. How you doing this evening?
I'm doing all right. Apparently, I'm an ebb and a flower. But yeah, I thought it was a great
Wishy-washy.
football week. But yeah, like Brady said, I'm not super excited about the upcoming week. So maybe it'll be more of like a relax and eat, stuff your face kind of week.
Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. I mean, of course, we are brought to you by Aardvark Concepts Incorporated, more than just a sign shop. Check them out in Westminster for all of your sign and decal needs, and in Too Deep of Maryland. Next show, TBD. Keep an eye on them. They're on Facebook, folks. They'll tell you when their next show is. Speaking of the next show, let's take a look at where we sit in the standings, because I think things are getting a little tight.
A little spicy.
That's right.
I had a good week
You
He
did.
did.
to make up for my abysmal fantasy week.
It's quite all right. We're inching ever so closely to Jessica as she allows us to get within arm's reach.
Yeah, I mean, I at least feel good about the upsets that I picked. They were not blowouts. They were good games. They were all good games this week, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So
Minus the Monday night game that we weren't so blessed to see. It wasn't a very good game, but it was a game that I called correctly.
Mm.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
explains why it
Really?
was a good game.
I think the biggest disappointment for me was the San Francisco Kansas City game, simply because if it had went the other way, I'd have been tied for first.
I honestly I told Brady I would have been totally fine, and you at Mom's house, I would have been totally fine with that. I wanted San Francisco to win so bad that I did not care about these standings. I wish they would have won.
It looked like they had so many chances too. They were holding their own, and then people just started getting hurt. And
Yeah, and
fell apart.
I know the Chiefs are undefeated at this point, but they don't look like they're not playing like a top caliber team like you would expect them to be with their record right now. They're just, getting the win somehow.
They're playing like a team that should have been in the NFL 20 years ago. They're playing solid defense and so-so offense.
Yeah, and the so-so offense is a ton of Patrick Mahomes throwing interceptions too. So I don't know. I don't know how they're doing it.
What's kind of funny is normally we talk about this at the end of the season where people are getting their groove of when do you want to hit that peak. So Kansas City pulled off at the top right at the start. They beat the Ravens. Ravens didn't look good for 2 games. Now Ravens have won how many in a row? So it's like the Ravens and the Chiefs have done the exact opposite. Chiefs are they haven't lost yet, but they're looking worse and worse, while the Ravens are starting to pull stuff off and finally pull stuff together. So it's kind of symmetrical.
Absolutely. And speaking of that Ravens game on Monday night, we had, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They made it exciting towards the end. They get those last couple of scores. However, the game was pretty much out of reach towards the end, and they kept in their 2 top wide receivers who eventually got hurt. I have to ask the question, and follow me on this, guys. Should they have kept them in knowing that things were, pretty much out of reach?
I'll start. Absolutely not. I mean, I understand you want to go out and you want to put on a competitive show. You want to give your fans something to root for, and they made it a game. They made it closer than it should have been. But when you're down, what was it, 31? What, at 21, 31 going into the fourth quarter? Okay, sure, you're close enough. Let's keep rolling here. But when there's 2 minutes left on the clock and you're still down by 3 scores, like, you got to know when to throw in the towel, not only for the health of your players, but for the longevity of your season. Because now what we're looking at Tampa Bay, I don't see a way forward for them to really string together wins. And if they do, it's going to have to come off the back of a defense that didn't look so hot.
Yeah, so I mean, their defense didn't look so hot, but they were against a pretty powerful offense last night. That was pretty efficient. But I kind of feel bad for the coach because I know he's a little bit covering for his guys when he says, the guys want to be out there. They don't want to be benched. They want to play the full game. But at the same time, it's a head coach call. And I don't know, maybe he knew that would sow discord. Maybe he knew that would cause more issues than it's worth. And if a team's already losing and kind of disgruntled as it is, maybe he didn't want to add that. And Mike Evans got hurt earlier on. So, as far as like racking up injuries, like, what was it? One other dude that got hurt, their other, receiver?
Yeah.
Dislocated, right?
Dislocated ankle, gone for the season.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is a risk that you take, but like maybe he knew that if he sat him, that he'd have bigger problems on his hand. I don't know, maybe not than that, but I do think he should have sat them though.
This is always a weird one for me. I always feel weird when they say whether you're winning a whole lot or losing a whole lot. Like, what do you do? And like, just got a point. The players want to play, but players always want to play. If you're in the NFL, that is what you want to do. So I don't find that as a viable excuse. Like, you're the head coach, you're the one in charge. I got 3 little kids. Just because they want to do something doesn't mean I'm letting them do it. But I also have a problem that you might have from the other side, from the Ravens side. I was talking to Brady about this at work. Like, I don't understand why the Ravens didn't slow everything down. Like, the Ravens should have played the clock to, like, you're up 20 points. Play the clock. You're in the fourth quarter. Like, let it ride. Eat that clock down. They're playing full on, so that might help inspire the Bucs to keep pushing forward as well. So it's kind of like darned if you do, darned if you don't type of thing.
I agree wholeheartedly with Tarek in regards to Tampa Bay. And quite frankly, yes, that was the official word. Was we asked them if they wanted to come out, and they said no. So they kept them in. Yes, you want to keep your guys happy with their playing time. I mean, they've got bonuses and stuff like that, of course, they're going for. And they were riding high with the amount of points they've been scoring and the way they've been playing recently. And you can't predict certain things are going to happen to your team. You can't predict something. You can't predict a guy's going to run out there and dislocate his ankle, or he's going to pull a mild medium hamstring injury for Mike Evans. Quite frankly, it's if you go out there playing scared that you're going to get hurt like that, you're going to get hurt anyway. So they went out there full bore. They did what they could, and with 2 minutes left, sure, sit them a little, tell them to sit down. But, I mean, they're professionals. That's what they're paid to do. They don't play in the NBA where they take days off just because, I don't feel like playing today. They play every single day if they can because they don't have as many games to play. So I'm of the opinion that they probably should have sat, but I have no problem with the way they went about that. So speaking of Tampa Bay, let's get into our first game of the week, and we're going to call, and Tarek, the GM, is calling an audible, and he is going first. And what play is it?
That way we can get my crap out of the way, and the people who actually know more about football that way can talk after me. So I'm going with,
What?
What? Who? Atlanta and Tampa Bay. So the Falcons and the Bucs. So this is an interesting one. Or the most interesting out of a not interesting set of games. As we've already talked about, this isn't a whole lot to choose from. So you got the Bucs coming off of a loss. You got the Falcons, who are doing better than last season, but that's not saying much. You've got injuries across the board, people out. So this is a tough one. I'm going with Tampa Bay just because I don't think Atlanta can fully has the tools and everything to pull it off. But as this season has proven, weirder things have happened. So I don't know.
I am going to disagree with Tarek. I am going with the Falcons here. I gave the Falcons a lot of props last week for their ability to adapt to their opponent's shortcomings. And then they go out last week and they look completely inept on offense. Kirk Cousins looks like an aging quarterback again. But I can't see a game where Tampa Bay, without Mike Evans until past their week 11 bye, without Chris Godwin, to where they're having these wide receivers line up. And I said it to Jess, and I said it in another group chat last night. Baker Mayfield is a great quarterback, but when you make him have to make throws, that's when he makes mistakes. So I think Atlanta is going to make him have to hit those inexperienced receivers, and they're going to wind up turning over the ball a lot in this game. If Tampa is going to have a chance in this game, it's going to be off their running game, which looked surprisingly good last night against the Ravens defense. It's been number one almost, I think, against the run all season. But I'm going with the Falcons just because I don't see anyone on Tampa Bay's offense that's going to be capable of replicating the production of Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, let alone the both of them out.
So I actually am also taking the Falcons. I think this would be more of a 50-50 call for me if there weren't the injuries for the Bucks. But in that case, I think I would still kind of lean Falcons. I don't know. It would be a toss-up for me because the Bucks are pretty good at, getting it done, getting the win. But the Falcons' loss was pretty bad. Like, I disagree. I don't give them that much props for how they played. I think they even brought out their rookie to play their quarterback, right? So
Towards
that was
the
a
end of the
little,
game,
yeah. Which going along that question of the week we just had, right?
yeah.
However, like the Falcons' biggest problem I think that they're going to have is their defense is not going to force a whole lot from Baker because their defense is giving up so many points even when they are winning. They're averaging like 25 points a game that they're giving up. So I think it's going to be like not the best game, but maybe the best game of the week. And I don't know who Baker's going to be trying to hit. So I'm going with the Falcons.
Yeah, I think at this point, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are just signing people off the street to, run out there and catch passes. We've received some feelers up here at the Pop panel, for people who may want to just try and catch the ball. But Atlanta, obviously, against Seattle last week, they looked like they just didn't have the right game plan. They weren't getting the opportunities to Bijan and Tyler Algier that they normally get. And they were kind of forcing things down. At some point, they had to forcing things down the field because they were falling behind. Seattle, all credit to Seattle's defense. They made them look like a second-tier team. So, quite frankly, I think that was the problem last week. Now, on to the problem with the Buccaneers. Obviously, they don't have two of their top two wide receivers. Baker Mayfield, however, he's good. And I feel like with this being a divisional game, this game is going to be close to the end. I think that this is going to be a higher scoring game than most people have it simply because people don't think that Tampa Bay can score right now without those two top tier receivers. I've got this one as the Atlanta Falcons winning, but 28-27, real close, right down to the wire, maybe a last minute field goal. So I actually think this one's going to be a very exciting game. Speaking of exciting, let's get into our next game of the week. Football, Jesus, give us that gospel.
The only real toss-up game that I saw this week is the Philadelphia Eagles going into Cincinnati to play the Bengals. So going off of the games last week, Philadelphia, their offense did not look good against the Giants' defense. They came away with the win, but you expect a team with Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Saquon Barkley going up against the Giants defense, which has been good this year, but you expect players of that caliber to be able to put up 30-plus points against a division rival, who hasn't scored a touchdown at home since like early last year. But the Bengals offense has been really good. So I'm going with the Bengals on this one simply for the fact that I think the Bengals need this game more than Philly does because they're at 3-4. The AFC North is a hotly contested division right now with the Ravens and the Steelers both sitting at 5-2. So I have the Bengals winning this one, but I think this is going to be a really close game because if Philly loses this one, who knows where their season's going at this point because of the inability to really score points and who thought Philly's defense was going to be the best side of the football for them.
Yeah, so it is hard to watch Philly struggle so much against am I frozen?
Yes,
It's fine. Just keep rolling.
we can hear you.
It's hard to watch Philly struggle so much against these teams that, on paper they should not be struggling against, like last week, like you're mentioning. However, the Bengals are kind of in the same boat where like they've started to look better, but like generally they've looked like trash. And their wins have only come on the road. So I am a little bit concerned with that. They are losing at home every single time. I do think that this is going to be the week that they get their first home win. And maybe they continue that momentum that they've started to kind of find that rhythm again. So I'm going with the Bengals. I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. Like it might be exciting, but I don't think it's going to be pretty.
Yeah, just pretty much nailed it on the head. My opinion on this: that neither team is doing as good as they should be. They're both kind of looking bad, despite close records or whatever. But yeah, I'm going with Cincinnati just because everything they said. Yes.
Well put.
Thank you. My brain froze, and I'm just
kind of like Jessica's screen.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Anyway, I look at the Eagles and I see last week where they struggled against the New York Giants, the week before where they struggled against the Cleveland Browns, coming out of a bye week. They shouldn't do that. Good teams come out of the bye week firing on all cylinders. The Eagles are struggling. The Bengals are on the upswing. They lost 4 in a row to start the season. They won 3 in a row. They've been doing the things that the Bengals normally do, which is funny because the past couple of years, they have lost most of their games in the first month or two. They just can't seem to get it together in the first couple of weeks. They are right where they usually are. They are in the thick of the playoff race. And yes, they're 2 games behind the leaders in the AFC North. But they are playing incredible football right now. I think going into this game that the Cincinnati Bengals will get their first home win. I think they blow them out of their stadium. 2 touchdowns for everybody. It's going to be 38-20.
Bold.
Yes. All right. Speaking of bold, let's jump into the next game of the week. Jessica, what can you
Not
pull
bold.
from the trenches?
Yeah, this one I just kind of dug out of the trash. This is the Jets versus the Patriots. And the only reason game of the week, I do not call this the like exciting or, most competitive game of the week. Neither are true. However, they are both on extreme win droughts and they both need a win. However, the Jets have added Devontae Adams, which we did see a little bit of that chemistry between the two, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams last week, but we need to see some kind of benefit going on here. And Aaron Rodgers has got to stop turning the ball over. It is absolutely insane. On the flip side of that, the Patriots really are struggling for any kind of identity. Like, they're usually at least counted on as like this great defense, but even that, they're giving up a ton of points. They're looking just awful. Their coverages are completely blown. This one's tough to pick because historically the Patriots, own the Jets. However, not this year. I think that's going to change a little bit, and this is not a get right game for the Jets. I do not think that they continue on any kind of momentum. However, I am picking the Jets here. They have got to win and stop making excuses. Aaron Rodgers has got to stop saying things like, I need to lead better. Wilson's not following the right route. Nobody's listening. It's got to stop. Just win the game or be quiet.
I gotta agree. I mean, we had a conversation after the Jets game last week where in the first half they got 95 yards on 4 attempts to running back screens, and they didn't attempt it again in the second half.
Yeah,
So
Brees Hall.
they abandoned what was working. I mean, I forget, who were they playing last week? I totally forget.
Pittsburgh.
Yes, we're playing Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh had no response to that, and they were just like, okay, we're done. We have a shiny new toy. Let's throw the ball around and turn the ball over a whole bunch. And that's not going to win you football games. You have to stick with what works. Yeah. I don't care if it's not the guy who's making $180 million over the course of his contract. You stick with what works. And honestly, there's too much talent on the Jets roster for them to be 2-5. If this was any other team, any other quarterback, every pundit will be saying, you got to make a quarterback change.
Yeah.
But because it's Aaron Rodgers, they're just making excuses and they're firing people and people losing their jobs over a quarterback who arguably is looking like the worst quarterback in the league. On the other side of the ball, I think the Patriots have found their future quarterback in Drake May. That kid has got an arm. He makes some pretty good decisions for being this will be his third start. They don't have the roster to support him. So if he can survive this season without getting seriously injured, I think he is going to be the one that leads them into the playoffs in the near future. I'm going with the Jets on this one just based on roster structure. But just to reiterate what Jess said, you have to stop making excuses and be Aaron Rodgers.
So this reminds me of an allegory from South Park that I won't mention because this is a family show. Of what you choose between a type of sandwich and a type of cleaning product. So this is a Brady pick. So applaud Jess for a Brady pick. This is one of his definitely a Brady type game.
It's osmosis. It's happening.
Normally
I don't want to be at the bottom.
It's going out. It's going out.
Reverse osmosis, is that a thing?
It is now. Science.
But you got the two teams at the bottom of the AFC East, and this is like the Peyton Manning fan in me is so happy the Patriots are at the bottom. It makes me laugh that Belichick is gone, that Brady's gone, and the whole thing just like fell apart like overnight. It warms my soul here. But these two teams, like, this is one of those games where I'm like, both of you should lose because both you deserve to lose, but unlikely to happen.
Yeah.
But I'm with Brady and Jess. I'm going with the Jets just because I think just their presence is just going to give them a point to beat the Patriots here. The Patriots just like sit and watch them do it.
One of these teams has an opportunity, even a little one, to make the playoffs at this point. It is the Jets. However, I do like Drake May. He has shown flashes of being good. Last week, of course, in England, New England went to England and got their butts handed to them by the Jaguars.
Making up for 1776, man.
Yeah. But I think that may just be inexperience on his part. This is going to be one of those games that I actually think the Jets put up a decent amount of points in. Not only is Devontae Adams there for a second week, getting more time to learn the system, but the defense is also probably going to get a boost. Hassan Reddick he ended his holdout last week. They're saying he could play in this game coming up. I feel like if he does, the Jets defense will hold Drake May and the no-name offense that they have to probably under 20 points. I feel like the Jets hit 30 simply because they got embarrassed by a team that they shouldn't have been as embarrassed by. And with Devontae Adams finally coming back, hopefully Aaron Rodgers finds a bit of that spark that he had before when he had decent receiver, because he's never really had more than one.
First of all, Devontae Adams was not decent. He was amazing, but yes.
Oh, yeah.
And
He
another,
was.
well, and I mean, even Lazard. But I think the biggest matchup to look at, though, is, I mean, kind of sort of matchup. The Patriots secondary is like 29th. So they're awful. And this is like the perfect opportunity for Rodgers to be like, oh, see, guys, I still have it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't, but, you know, he can pretend for a week.
Yeah, I think after a couple more weeks they may just close up shop on that. So, but let's get to those pop battle quick pick'ems, and let's take a look. Not a single difference on this page, but we all know why.
Stat padding week.
Yeah.
Watch these all go awry. Except for that
lie. There is one game that I think could go pear shape, and that's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday night, Minnesota against the Rams.
I mean, I think the first or the second could.
Cooper Kupp might be back.
Cooper Kupp might be back, and as I said last week, I mean, they showed it in the Lions game. When Aaron Jones is not on the playing field, the Minnesota offense cannot move the ball. For whatever reason, he's their horseshoe. And
what's odd to me, though, is that they're talking about trading Cooper Kupp. And does that make him play? Generally, does that going to make him play harder? Is that not like what?
They're 2-5, right? And they have a lot more problems. They have two really good wide receivers and a quarterback who's maybe got 1 or 2 more years left in them. So I think they realize as like a franchise, like, hey, we can get something for one of these star receivers that might make us more of a contender in the next year or two, then you got to do that.
Who knows? Maybe they get their first round pick in the past decade and a half.
They're not even asking for a first round. They're asking for a second. Right?
That blows them away. That's a good receiver there.
I'll take him.
Yeah. All right. A little bit of a split here.
That top one, if Tua plays, I might change. But if Tua doesn't play, I cannot, in good faith, play any of the Falcons, any of the Finns in fantasy, or pick them.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised I picked Miami.
Everything that I've seen says that Tua is coming back.
Only when he's not wearing the Guardian cap and he's choosing to put his own life in his hands. But
yeah. If
he does not come back, I absolutely will switch it.
I know.
If he doesn't, I still might. If he does, I still
might. Another upset alert. But Jacksonville, I think that they hey, hear me out.
Bruh.
It's in Jacksonville.
Bro.
We on the East Coast are in the middle of a heat wave. Like, it could happen. And watch it be close. Watch it be close.
I anticipate it being close.
Because Jordan Love loves to throw like 2 interceptions a game.
One person picking the Saints.
I can't. Not with a Greg Roman offense. I mean, they have no wide receivers, which that's not Jim Harbaugh's fault. It's not Justin Herbert's fault. They're pulling Jalen Reagor off from the subway line to play wide receiver for them, and he's fumbling the ball through the end zone. I can't. Even with the Saints' depleted team, but maybe they get Olave back. They just extended Kamara, so I expect him to get a bunch of touches this week, but I can't pick the Chargers. Not this year.
That one might switch for me. It was not an educated decision, and I didn't see last night's game for them. So
I do not condone my own picks.
I think Herbert threw for 340 yards, and that was the only stat. Like, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Like, they could barely run the ball.
I feel bad for the dude. Like,
yeah, he got Greg
got
Roman as
talent.
an offensive coordinator. I feel bad for him. We went through 6 years of that crap.
Yeah.
I do see that Tarek is back on the Bronco bandwagon after not picking him last week and getting completely torched because of it.
You know what though? That one could go either way.
He could have been 14. Tarek could have been 14-1 if he'd have picked the Broncos last week.
Yeah.
It could, because Chubba Hubba and that run game of Carolina is better than it deserves to be. And Carolina actually has a highly ranked defense. So it depends on what Bo Nix shows up, really. Like, if it's the Bo Nix that we see every other week where he's throwing the ball in between receivers, or if he's making plays. So
honestly,
what is Denver's run defense? I know their secondary is good, but
middling.
Okay.
Middle to upper end. But the other game on this list that I think everybody is overlooking is Buffalo against Seattle.
That's another one, though, with Amari Cooper being in Buffalo, with him getting more acclimated. I think that's going to get Buffalo on that run that we expect them to be on at this point in the season. But it
it's
being
one receiver. They have no other good receivers.
They don't, but he's a reliable receiver who's either going to catch the ball or it's going to go right through his hands. But he's better than what they had, and they have a good run game this year. So,
but Seattle's offense can also be explosive, which is why I think this is going to be a good game.
If DK Metcalf plays, he is week to week.
Is he? Oh man,
still play. Even if he doesn't play, I think it's still close.
I don't think Njigba and Lockett are going to be able to be 6'6", 0% body fat of wide receiver out there like Metcalf is.
That man can like find the last blades of grass with his toes, like his toenails. Like Metcalf does. He's
a hunk of man right there.
His run block last week, where he's holding the dude with one arm and he's just doing this.
I just want to take some cheese and grate it all over his
family show, Sam. Move on. Hit the next button.
Anyway, and surprisingly, one person's picking the Cowboys, and it ain't me.
I'm here for it.
I'm picking the Cowboys because Samuel's in the hospital. Ayuk is done for the season. Their best receiver just got shot in the chest a month ago. But
he's gonna play.
I mean, he's gonna play, but it's his second game, and McCaffrey's not due back until. So I think this is the game, which we know Dallas plays really good on the road and terrible at home. This game's in San Francisco.
I thought about picking Dallas, but Dallas is going to get torched. I think Debo will be back. I think Debo was in the hospital because of an illness.
It was pneumonia.
Yeah. And that's going to be the X factor, that in their running game, because they don't need to throw the ball as much, and Dallas can't stop the run. So what does it matter? Oh,
that is one I am sticking with. So
good. I'm glad you are. At least one person believes in my team.
That Chicago game might be good, especially isn't Daniels potentially not going to play?
Mm-hmm.
And if he doesn't, I will probably switch.
But last week, Marcus Mariota had a great game.
It was 2016 in the NFL over again. Mariota throwing to Zach Ertz for a touchdown. So
listen, I followed Mariota didn't he play in Atlanta last year or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when he
played many places.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean last year when because he also had like a special on Netflix or something, but I feel like he had great,
a little stand-up routine.
No,
on quarterback.
Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
And I feel like he had some great games where you're like, oh, and you kind of got to know the guy and whatever. So like you're rooting for him a little bit, and then he'd have horrible games. So no.
A lot of people got to know Tom Brady quite a bit while he was playing, and everybody wanted him to lose.
Actually, I feel like I've gotten to know him more since he stopped playing.
Yeah, he's not the evil general on the other side. He's just a dude who's calling the game. So
yeah.
Oh no! There it is.
I clicked and it didn't move, so I clicked again, and then it went 2 spaces, and then I went to go back.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this week. Hopefully we have a really good football week. Hopefully you do better. Hopefully I continue my streak and can get out of third place and move past Sam and
Tied
see
for
what
second.
happens.
You're tied for second.
Tied for second. It counts against you. It counts as third.
Nah. Takes a win.
So I'll be in last soon enough. It's all good. So thank you guys. Please hit like, hit subscribe so you know when our videos come out. I try to post them on Thursdays. Leave a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win. Say hi to Carol. And
Hi, Mom.
Hello, Carol. Hey,
see
you
you
go.
guys. We'll see you guys next time. I'm Terry.
I'm Jessica.
I've already got a stepdad, and I'm King Football Jesus.
And I'm Sam, and I don't need another wife. And you have a great football week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.